In July, I read 9 books, and in today's video, I'm going to share my thoughts on all 9 books and let you guys know whether you should read them or if you should just skip them. July was definitely a slow reading month for me. I feel like I did the majority of my reading the first week of July, and then I read maybe like 2 or 3 books this past week. The first book that I want to talk about is A Proposal They Can't Refuse by Natalie Ganya. This is Natalie Ganya's first novel. It basically follows Liam and Camila, whose grandfathers are best friends. They've been best friends for years and years. Camila and Liam don't really get along all that well. They are constantly butting heads. However, Liam's grandfather is dying of cancer, so his last wish is for Liam and Camila to get married. So the grandparents come up with this plan, which is essentially blackmailing, if I'm being honest. And they come up with this plan to make Liam and Camila agree to get married. Liam and Camila have other plans though. They decide to lie to their family, including their grandparents, and come up with a fake engagement instead. Through that fake engagement, they actually end up falling in love with one another. And not only do they learn more about each other, but they also learn a lot about themselves. And there definitely is a lot of character growth throughout the book, which was really nice. I have a couple complaints about this book. I feel like there were a few unresolved issues at the end, and I felt that the ending was definitely rushed, since at times the book felt like it dragged on. But overall, I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I would still recommend this book to everyone. It's a cute little rom-com, and I love that the main character Camila is Puerto Rican and the guy is Irish American, if I remember correctly. And I just love the different culture influences sprinkled throughout the book, especially since I am Puerto Rican. It just made me feel at home, and it was such a cozy little comfort read. The next book that I read was The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I've seen this book everywhere. It's very popular on Book Talk. It basically follows 2 best friends. I forget their names already. Bree and Nathan. Bree is basically in love with Nathan. She's always been in love with him. They've been best friends since high school, but she's never made a move. Nathan is this super popular NFL quarterback. Every girl wants to get with him. He's never made a move towards Bree, so Bree thinks that he doesn't like her, that he only sees her as his little sister, his best friend. But one night Bree gets extremely drunk and she ends up talking to a TMZ reporter, and she confesses to a TMZ reporter that she's been in love with Nathan since the first day that she met him. The TMZ reporter, of course, runs with this news and it spreads like wildfire, and Nathan's publicist sees this as a great opportunity to keep Nathan's fans talking about him in a good way. All they have to do is agree to fake date for a couple months, which they agree to do. So once they start fake dating, Bree's feelings become even more intense towards Nathan, and Nathan seems to really be enjoying the fake relationship, which makes Bree feel confused. She's like, is Nathan actually enjoying this because he loves me, or is he just enjoying it because it's helping his public image? I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was pretty funny at certain times. I'm a huge football fan, so I really enjoyed the little football references sprinkled throughout the book as well. My only thing with this book is that I found Bree kind of annoying. I love Nathan. Nathan has my heart, absolutely perfect, but Bree was just super immature at times, and it just really got on my nerves. But other than that, I still really enjoyed the book, and I really like that the author tackled anxiety and panic attacks. My fridge just went on, so if you hear a noise in the background, it's my fridge. I'm sorry. I'll try to edit it out during editing. But I really like that the author made Nathan have anxiety and suffer from panic attacks, because I feel like, yes, mental health is talked about a lot more now in 2022, but I mainly hear females talking about their mental health struggles. I don't really hear men be open about it, and I feel like there's still a stigma with men suffering from mental health and anxiety and panic attacks and things like that. So I really like that the author made the male character suffer from anxiety, and it just normalizes the topic. Like, yes, men can have panic attacks, men can have anxiety, they can have mental health struggles as well. It's not only females. So I just really love that aspect of the book, and it just made me adore Nathan even more. I just wanted to give him a hug. The next book that I've talked about so much this past month, at least I feel like I've talked about it a lot, maybe not to you guys, but to the people around me, and that is Beach Read by Emily Henry. You guys, absolutely loved this book. This was a 5-star read for me. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. I adored the two main characters, January and Gus. Gus will forever have my heart. I still think about this book, and I read it like the first week of July. But this book basically follows two authors, January and Gus. January writes romance books versus Gus writes fiction novels, and they both happen to be suffering from writer's block, so they are spending the summer in a very small town. The book starts off with them not really getting along. One night they decide to actually swap genres, so January will write a fiction novel and Gus will write the next big romance novel, and through that process of basically researching each other's genres and researching content for their new books, they spend a lot of time together and they end up falling for one another. Both characters experience a lot of character growth, especially January, and it's just an overall cute, wholesome book. It had me smiling throughout. This book is primarily romance, but it also deals with so many other deeper topics and issues, like learning to trust yourself, learning that no matter what life throws at you, you can survive and you can come out of that experience a better and bigger person. And I just loved the important life messages throughout the book, and of course I love the romance, I love the comedy. It was just a 10 out of 10 for me. I really have zero complaints on this book. Absolutely loved it. If you haven't read this book, go read it. You're going to love it, I promise you. My leg is falling asleep right now. Oh my gosh. But the next book that I read this month was The Bride Test by Helen Huang. This is the second book in the Kiss Colton series. This one basically follows Kai, who is autistic, and he doesn't experience love like everyone else, and he struggles with experiencing normal emotions. So because of that, he has decided to just keep everyone at bay, and he never wants to marry, he never wants to have kids, he never wants to fall in love, essentially, because he doesn't think he's capable of falling in love. Because of this, his mom decides to take matters into her own hands, so she flies to Vietnam, where they're originally from, and finds him a bride, essentially. This bride happens to be Esme, who views this as an opportunity to fly to America and better her life, and she's determined to make Kai fall for her. But through the process of making Kai fall for her, she actually falls for him. The big question throughout the book is whether or not Kai will reciprocate those feelings. I actually really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed The Kiss Colton a lot more. The Kiss Colton was a 5-star read for me. I think I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Let me check my notes really quick. Yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It definitely wasn't a bad read. I just was expecting a little bit more from the characters, and I feel like the main characters, Kai and Esme, didn't really have that much chemistry. I don't know if it's because their relationship was kind of forced by Kai's mom, but I just didn't feel like the relationship felt genuine enough for me, and I just didn't really vibe with them. I love the two main characters separately. Like, I absolutely adore Kai and I absolutely adore Esme. I just didn't really like them together. Again, I just didn't feel like it was genuine, so I struggled reading this book because of that. With that being said, I will still be reading the third book in the series. I really love that Helen Huang tackles autism in her books, and she always makes one of her main characters, at least in this series, have autism, and I think that's amazing. I just didn't really like the whole love story in this book, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't recommend it. A lot of you guys have told me that you really enjoyed this book. Some of you enjoyed it way more than The Kiss Quilting, so it honestly just depends on your preference. Another book that I read was A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. I believe this is the fourth book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and this book basically follows the aftermath of the last book, which I believe was A Court of Wings and Ruin, which I absolutely adore that book. But this one just didn't do it for me. I felt like this book was pretty pointless. I know it bridges A Court of Wings and Ruin with the sixth book in the series, which follows Nesta's character. If you've read A Court of Thorns and Roses, then and you follow what I'm saying. I enjoyed the book because I really like the main characters. I don't really think this book adds anything to the series. I mean, if you're a fan of the series and you want to read it, go ahead. You don't lose anything by reading it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. This book basically follows Ruthie, who works at a retirement villa. She leads a pretty boring and uptight life, but then Teddy starts working at this retirement villa and he's the complete opposite of Ruthie. But through the process of them spending time together and working together, they actually end up falling for one another, but their future is really up in the air because Ruthie never wants to leave the retirement home. She feels safe there. It's what she's done for the last couple of years, and she doesn't really trust herself in the real world. She has really bad anxiety, versus Teddy wants to go out into the world and he doesn't want to stay working in the retirement villa forever. They constantly are struggling with the idea that their relationship won't survive. The two main characters are pretty boring, especially Ruthie, which I know that the author did that on purpose. She wanted to create a character that was super boring, super uptight, didn't live her life. So when Teddy came along, who was the complete opposite of that, it would bring Ruthie out of her shell. But I honestly just felt so bored reading this book. Overall, I give this book like a 3 out of 5 stars. The only reason I give it a 3 out of 5 stars is because I adored the side characters. I adored the Parloni sisters. They were such a hoot and they really made this book for me. I loved their dialogue. If it weren't for the side characters, I probably would have given this book a 2 out of 5 stars. So this book honestly just felt flat for me. And then because I was bored while I was reading it, the ending actually felt rushed to me. Like for the whole book, the characters were struggling with these problems, and at the very end of the book, everyone's problems were solved at the very same time. And I'm like, well, that's super unrealistic. If you're a fan of Sally Thorne's writing, I would say give this book a chance, because I know that a lot of people love her books, but honestly this book just felt completely flat for me. The next 3 books that I read, I'm going to speed right through them because I've actually been working on a video which is reading books out of my comfort zone. I was hoping to have that up before this video, but I just again haven't had time to actually sit down and read a lot of books. But these next 3 books are going to be featured in that video, and I don't want to be super repetitive. Definitely keep an eye out for that video, which it should be up next week once I finish reading like 2 or 3 more books. I'll definitely share more of my thoughts on these books in that video, but I still wanted to share these books since I did read them this month. The next book that I read is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This book basically follows 2 main characters, Mateo and Rufus. They both have been notified through Deathcast, which is a company that can predict when you're going to die, which is so weird to me, but that's what this book is about. So Deathcast basically calls Rufus and Mateo and lets them know that sometime within the next 24 hours they're going to die. Deathcast doesn't really know how or exactly when they're going to die. They just know that sometime in the next day both Mateo and Rufus will be dead. Once Rufus and Mateo finds out that they're going to die, they actually go on another app which is called Last Friend. Through that app they actually end up connecting and they end up meeting, and they decide to spend their last day alive together, which is when they embark on different adventures throughout the day. It's a very depressing book, but it's also very heartwarming, and I actually enjoyed reading it a lot. I was putting off reading this for the longest time because I just didn't think that I would enjoy it. It's definitely not my typical rom-com book. This book has a little bit of romance, but it's not a romance book at all. The message of the book is actually really beautiful, and it's basically just a reminder to live every day like it's your last. Like if there's something you want to do, stop putting it off, just do it, because you never know when you're going to die. Essentially everyone dies, but not everyone lives, you know? But with that being said, I normally am such a crybaby when it comes to books and movies. Like I am that one friend that will be bawling her eyes out because someone died in a movie or because someone died in a book. But I didn't even shed a tear for this book, and it didn't really affect me as I thought it was going to affect me. But I still really enjoyed it, and I still give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I would still recommend it if you haven't read it and you want to break from like romance novels. definitely read this because I do think that the message in the book is important. The next book is a spicy one, so I only recommend it for 18 plus, and it is Priest by Sierra Simone. So this book basically follows a priest who has broken his celibacy vow inside his own church with a woman named Poppy. This book is mainly erotica, or is it erotic? I never know what the proper word is. Can you please let me know in the comments below what the proper term is? Is it erotica or erotic literature? But it's very spicy, and the main reason I read this book during my reading books out of my comfort zone video is because I'm not really into that genre. I just find that the main characters really have no substance, there's no character development, and it's just all about the spice, and that's how I felt reading this book. I also considered it out of my comfort zone because it deals with a priest who broke his celibacy vow, and I am a religious person. I believe in God. So I thought I was going to get offended, or that the author wasn't going to respect the religion. And I mean, she wasn't super disrespectful with the religion, but it's about a priest breaking his celibacy vow. So yeah, take that as you wish. I give it like a 2.5 out of 5 stars. If you're into really spicy books and that's all you care about, then read this book. You'll love it. But if you are looking for character growth and a good plot, then maybe skip out on this book because it's not that. The last book that I read this month was Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This book is a very short one. It's only 163 pages. It basically follows a woman who is working at a convenience store in Japan, right? I'm pretty sure it's Japan. She absolutely loves her job, but everyone around her, like her friends and family, look down on her because she's been working at a convenience store for I think 18 years, and they're pressuring her to get married or to find a better career. Because her family and her friends are constantly pressuring her, she decides to basically give them what they want. And one thing I should mention is that I'm pretty sure that the main character has autism because she processes emotions differently, and throughout the book you can see that she struggles to fit in, when in reality she doesn't need to fit in. She's perfect just the way she is. She just has autism. I think that the overall message of the book is super important. It's basically to not let society dictate your life. Just because society wants you to get married or it wants you to have this amazing career doesn't mean that you need to do those things. You just need to do what makes you happy and what you want to do. So I love that message of the book, but it didn't impact me as I thought it was going to. For that reason, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Again, I still would recommend it. I still think it's a great writing. I love the story. I love the main character. I love her journey from where she started trying to fit in to when she finally realized that she is just going to do what makes her happy, and that has to be enough for society. And the author herself actually worked in a convenience store, so she actually takes experiences from her own life and incorporates it into the book, and I just thought that was pretty cool. But let me know in the comments below if you have read any of these books. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And that is pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you a part of my little community here on YouTube, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.